Well, I have 12 o'clock, and I know everyone has a busy schedule, so welcome and thanks for joining us today for our new knowledge session. Today kicks off our 21-22 series. So glad you could join us. My name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital, and if you're not familiar with us, we are a community development financial institution providing lending, finance, investing, and community innovation services. And I know Virginia Community Capital is extremely happy to partner with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and the town of Abington to present these sessions bi-weekly. And if this is your first time, where have you been? We've been doing this since 2014. As part of the Washington County Business Challenge to help our competitors. And we have opened this up to all of Virginia. So wherever you're at, thanks for joining us. Just a little housekeeping. Today's session will be recorded for training and educational purposes. And we have, in order to keep the webinar flowing, we have muted everyone. However, if you have a question for our presenter or any of us, please post those in the Q&A section or in the chat feature. Today, I'm extremely pleased to have Jonathan Evenden to lead our session. And today's session will focus on Microsoft Office. I told him I'm ready to learn a lot because I have lots of questions, but I'll let you all go first. If you're not familiar, and if you've not been using Outlook for a long time, it's probably one of the most famous applications for reading emails, managing calendars, and connecting with people. Jonathan's going to share with us some tips on how to use that better and to its full capacity. If you're not familiar with Jonathan, he is with Aegis IT, located in Kingsport, Tennessee. He's been full-time in the IT industry since 2004, when he started the company in 2012. In the rare moments that he's not in front of a computer, he loves playing board games and watching Netflix with his wife and son. Jonathan, welcome, and I look forward to your session today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. I always enjoy being here to present. All right, so I'm ready to share my screen. It won't let me at the moment. There we go. All right, so.
I was so anxious, I wasn't even paying attention.
Excellent. Everything looks okay, right?
Yes, it does.
Excellent. Okay, so today, Jonathan Evenden with Aegis IT. We provide quality IT consulting and business solutions founded on personal character and integrity. I'm going to spend this session talking about Outlook, talking about some tips and tricks. It's a big program. It can do quite a few things. And I want to bring to you some things that will help improve your productivity, help make your life easier if you're using Outlook. Outlook is not the only email client that's out there. Thunderbird is popular. Gmail, just using the direct Gmail web interface, is extremely popular. If you have, say, an iPhone or an Android, then they have their own mail clients. But when it comes to desktops, when it comes to businesses, Outlook tends to be the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to email. So just real quick, my background, I have been fixing computers since the 90s. My dad brought home a computer in the late 80s, and I was immediately enamored with it. Fixing computers and especially doing IT support is something that's both a passion and a hobby. I started in enterprise IT in 2005, so I've now been at this for 16 years in a professional environment. And started Aegis IT in 2012. It's been my dream to work for myself for a long time and have been extremely thankful and proud to have that opportunity and be successful. Aegis IT, we provide hardware and software support. We do a lot of Outlook support, Office. I'd say Microsoft Office is probably the number 2 product that we support, followed by, you got number 1 would be Windows itself, then Microsoft Office, then QuickBooks. We provide managed IT services, so we help people keep track of things like licenses and keep track of their hardware and life cycle and make sure everything's running well for businesses. We also do disaster recovery and prevention. And then I've been personally supporting Outlook and email since the late 90s. So I've been working on Outlook for a very long time. All right, so real quick, Outlook has been around since the mid 90s. It works best when paired with Microsoft Exchange, which is the email client. For a long time, that was really the only option for enterprise. I mean, you had Lotus with Notes and some other, even Novell had Groupware. They weren't that good. There's a reason they're not around anymore. They're terrible products. Outlook and Exchange sort of took over and became the best option for corporate environment. So as a result, you've got Outlook is basically the most popular and the most common. There are many ways in which it's underused, and you can improve your productivity depending on how many emails you receive a day. If you're like me and you get several hundred emails a day, they just sort of stream in, and it's easy to have things get lost in the shuffle. You've got also issues where more companies are turning to remote meetings, such as this meeting in and of itself. This prior to COVID, we had been meeting in person, and now we're not. I'm looking forward to the day when we can go back to in-person meetings because I find them to be more productive and more personal. But in the meantime, this is a great opportunity for being able to continue meeting. So Outlook has added functionality to make this easier to create things like Zoom meetings or team meetings or Google Meetup. And that has been recent additions because older versions don't necessarily support that. You also have many features and shortcuts that even seasoned users might not know about. It's just, it can do a lot. And unless you spend full time trying to support it or learn what it can do, I can just about guarantee you there's a number of things that you might not know or might not understand or might not be able to implement properly. Overall, we just want to show you a bunch of things that you might not have seen and basically options and features that we really don't see people using when we're providing support for clients. So first of all, scheduling. What this means is you can actually schedule your emails to be a specific date or time. For example, I sent these presentation notes to Sandy at 1:30 in the morning or 2 a.m. or whatever it was. I don't even remember at this point. Sometimes you don't want clients to see that, or maybe you don't want people to know that you're up that late sending emails. So you can actually pick a particular date and time for an email to go out. That way it looks like you're more normal and more human. Maybe you don't want someone to know that you're sending emails at 3. I personally, I did that. I'm on that screen and it hurts me. Or maybe you have a newsletter that you want to go out at a certain time. You know, maybe you want it to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And by using the scheduling feature in Outlook, you can specify a very specific date and time for that to occur. And you can also, it just has this feature to schedule an email for later. And basically, I'll have screenshots for everything that I talk about. But if you're looking for it, it's under options and then delayed delivery. And so what that looks like here is when you're creating a new email, you click on the options tab, and I've got the delayed delivery circled in red. And then you have the checkbox. It's not enabled by default. You have to check it. Do not deliver before, and then you can pick a date and a time. And that's really handy because now you can specify when you want something to go out. And it just gives you better control rather than just have it immediately send out. Additionally, maybe there's an email you're sitting on and you send it, but you wish you could take it back. Well, this would prevent you from accidentally sending something that you don't necessarily want to go out. You could schedule it for later in the day and then sit there and think about it and decide if you really want that email to go out. There's also a large number of shortcuts within Outlook. You can basically do this from anywhere within the program to jump around within the program. For example, if you want to switch to your mail, you can do a Control-1. It doesn't matter if your calendar or your contacts, you'll just jump to your mail. Switch to calendars, Control-2. Switch to contacts is Control-3. Switch to tasks is Control-4. Basically, that just lets you jump back and forth between the different sections of the program. As someone who does IT support for a living, I live and die by shortcuts. So Windows has a number of built-in shortcuts that I use heavily. It just saves me a ton of time. And so something like this, instead of having to sit there and click and look and figure out where you need to go, even if you've used Outlook for a long time, I can guarantee you that using these shortcuts to jump back and forth between sections of the program will be faster than mousing. There's some additional shortcuts. So if you want to make a new appointment for your calendar, you've got Control-Shift-A. You want to make a new contact, Control-Shift-C. A new message, Control-Shift-M. Send a message, Alt-S, and reply to a message, Control-R. So in general, if you are able to do your work from the keyboard, it's going to be faster than if you're using the mouse. So it might not seem like much, but depending on how heavily you use Outlook and how much you are in it during the day, this can be a significant time saver. For me in particular, if we're doing support, I will try and use keyboard shortcuts as much as possible, just because of how much time it cuts down rather than trying to mouse all over the computer. Another fun feature is that you can create new items from pretty much anywhere. So historically, if you wanted to make a new contact, you had to go to the contact section. If you wanted to make a new calendar item, you had to go to the new calendar, had to go to the calendar item. But sometimes you're in your email and you're reading the email and you decided, oh, I need to schedule a meeting. Well, now you can do that. Outlook allows you to do that straight from your email section. So you can just basically make a new item and make a new appointment no matter where you are in the program. Same thing with a contact or a task. This is particularly convenient. I like that you can do this. This has not always been the case. So that saves time from having to navigate and go to the right place. That way you can also, if you've got an email that you're from, that you're talking to somebody and you decide you need to make an appointment, you could have that email sitting there and you can basically just make an appointment or make a contact straight on that screen without having to switch. Quick parts are pretty interesting. What this is basically a way to quickly apply phrases or text that you use on a regular basis. It's not quite a shortcut replacement because there is an option in Microsoft Office for abbreviations or keywords. So basically, if you were to type DNR, you could have Office immediately translate that to do not resuscitate, for example. I don't know. If you are in a jargon heavy environment or you use a large number of abbreviations, Office will let you set that up so that you can quickly translate that into actual sentences and words. Quick parts is a little different in that you can type out entire paragraphs or sentences or phrases and have that quickly accessible to you. This is under an email option. And basically, this is helpful for when you have repeated words. Maybe you send the same meeting invitation all day long. Or maybe you're in a situation where you're answering questions from customers or general support, and it's the same question every day. How do I find this? How do I find this? How do I find this? And then maybe you could type up the reply to where they can find that one piece of information and assign it as a quick part. So now you get that email coming in from as a support request, and you just click reply, and you basically have a canned answer to make it easier to save your time so you don't have to type up that response. This is found under, if you make a new message, you go to insert, and there's an option on the right that says quick parts. So in this case, I have in there, thank you for contacting support. Have you tried turning it off and on again? As someone who's in IT support, it's a very frequent reply. It's something that is both a joke and true at the same time. So in this case, instead of typing that out, I could just click and that text is inserted into my email. So you can see that there's a button down below that says save selection to quick part gallery. Basically, you could type up whatever reply you wanted to, highlight it, and then save it. There's also auto text, which is down below. That's a slightly different feature that gets into abbreviations and automatic replacements. But in this case, you could have a whole list of quick parts, especially for common questions and common answers. This is great for scenarios where you're sending the same thing over and over. View settings. View settings basically let you change the overall display of emails. This is powerful in that you can change the colors and formatting. You can make it look different depending on who the sender is, if there's a word or a phrase in the subject, or something in the email itself. You could make emails that have attachments come up with a certain color. You can make emails sent before this particular time or date have this coloring over here. It's extremely detailed and extremely involved in terms of what you can do. You can also change which columns are displayed. The default view has like 5 or 6 columns: who's it's from, what's the subject, what date it was sent, what time it was sent. Sometimes there's flags, sometimes there's categories. But there's another 20 or 30 different columns that you can make Outlook show depending on what you need. Sometimes people use categories You can make it show whether you replied to it. There's a large number of columns that are not there by default. So changing the view will let you see more information about those emails. Now, keep in mind that the more columns you add, the more compressed it gets. So if you have 30 columns, they're all going to be extremely tiny because they're not going to show up very well. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I've got a couple of screenshots related to this. In the next one, in the second screenshot in the series, you'll see that I changed all emails that have the word order in the subject line to be green. This will affect, something that says an Amazon order confirmation or a Dell order confirmation or a FedEx notification or some other vendor. UPS tells me that something's been delivered or an order just been shipped. Basically, it lets me, by doing something like that, it would let me quickly see which emails have orders and what the status is. So maybe I'm going back and trying to find, when did I actually order this particular computer from Dell? Well, now I can just quickly scroll through and look for the green emails if I wanted to. There's also searching, which I didn't include a slide on, but by having it filtering, you can very quickly at a glance look for something on that particular matter. All right, so real quick under view settings, the first screenshot, this is from the email view. So actually what I'll show you on another screenshot is you can change the view of any section. You can change the view for contacts, for calendars, for tasks. I just picked the email one. So when I'm in the email, I click under the view tab at the top, and then you'll see that there's a change view, view settings, reset view on the far left. And so in this particular case, I said view settings, and it pops up this view settings page. This shows you which columns you've got selected. You can group by something like who the sender is. You can group by date. You can group by attachment size. Then you could also sort it by when it was. In this case, I sorted it by received descending. So my newest emails are at the top. Some people like the newest emails at the bottom. There's any number of filters that you could set. There's other settings such as, do you want it in the table view like I've got it? Do you want it displayed differently? And then you've got your conditional formatting. So right now I've got bolded emails are the new ones. And I went into conditional formatting to change the settings to make anything with those subject word orders be green. So on the second screenshot, you'll see that these are everything except the one that I just made. They are default. So you've got, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, you're
okay,
good.
Sorry, something cut out, and I was just making sure that it wasn't me. Okay, so basically you've got the default conditional formatting with Outlook, your unread messages, your unread group messages, submitted but not sent, expired, overdue. And so you can make your own formatting. So in this case, I clicked on add, I gave it a name, and you'll see that under font, I made it green. And then I clicked on the condition button. And then on condition, I've now typed in the word order, and I've got it in the subject. So what that does is when I apply it, anything with the word order in the subject will now match whatever font I specify. So it'll be Segoy UI 11 point and green. So that means you could also make important emails to be super large. You can make it 30 point, and now all of a sudden they stand out more than the rest of them. So this is the very basic conditional formatting. There's a tab that's advanced, and I'll show you a screenshot of that. And what that means is basically there's an option in Outlook that you can use. You can use it to change the view. So you can change the view based on attachments. You can change the view based on date that it was sent, whether it was replied to. How many people were you sent that email directly, or were you merely CC'd or BCC'd? Any of those conditions, you can create a view on it. It's pretty powerful. You can apply it also to contacts and calendars. You can change the color of a person on your calendar to indicate urgency, for example, or color code all these, HR meetings in red, technical meetings in green. You can go through and do all these different types of view settings. You can also change your color of emails if they were sent to you directly versus something that you were only copied on or carbon copied on. And it's basically just a crazy amount of options. So here's this. Let me show you this. Okay, so this is just a quick screenshot. This is all the settings you can filter on, and this is all the settings that you can set under. You can modify your view based on. So this is just the mail. So you've got, was it forwarded, BCC, billing information category, CC, changed by context, conversation created for. It's a long list, and you can also see on this left side that you can apply this to your contact fields, your appointment fields, your task fields, your note fields. It's pretty involved. So depending on how granular you want to get, you can introduce a significant amount of views and changes to your emails and your contacts and your calendars. It's pretty involved. That does mean that there's a large opportunity to, the more options you have, the more opportunities you have to mess something up. So just keep that in mind as you're adjusting your view settings. The nice part is that these are only visual. As long as you don't do something like a rule, which I'll talk about later, you're not deleting anything. You're just changing how it's displayed. So you can't do too much damage under view settings. Although it is possible to hide your email. So you could make it look like you have no email. I have seen that happen before. And thankfully that's just a view setting, and you can reset that. Another important thing that is frequently valuable in the business environment is calendar sharing. So this allows you to share a calendar and see when someone else is available. So for example, us internally, I have my calendar shared with several employees, so that way they can see where I am and what I'm scheduled, and I'm going to be in this location at this time, and if a service issue comes up and I'm in Abingdon and we need to send someone out to Pound or Clintwood or something, it's clear that I'm not going to be able to get there anytime soon because I'm not anywhere near there. So the calendar sharing is quite valuable in that context. And when it comes to Outlook, this is one of those features that works best if you have Exchange, because calendar sharing will work without Exchange, but it's far more clunky. It does not work nearly as well. And so for people who want to share calendars, I'll make sure that they're set up in a certain way just to make it easier for them. What's also great is by using Exchange, it lets you set up shared calendars for resources. Maybe you have a room that is used for presentations. Maybe you have a projector or specific audio-visual equipment that needs to be used, or just anything else. You can actually set up a calendar for that resource and turn it into a shared calendar that people can request use for without having to have a paper sheet to know when it's available. It's very helpful for being able to share resources among a team. You can request and schedule a room. You don't need to worry if a room is free when you go to have a meeting, and then if someone forgets to register, well, guess what? They forgot to register it, and now you've got your registration there. Additionally, when it comes to sharing your calendar, you can share all the details, meaning someone can see everything about that calendar appointment. Alternatively, they can see just the name of the appointment, or simply see that you are free or busy at that time. So for example, depending on whether you want someone to know what's happening, in this case, on my calendar, I've got it shared that it shows that I've got a presentation from 12 to 1, well, really 11:45 to 1, but then I've also got a meeting at 2 that is set to simply show free busy, because it's something that I need them to know, that I need my employees to know that I'm busy, but I don't necessarily want them to know what that appointment is. It's just a personal appointment that's really none of their business. Whereas most of the time, most of the time I'm sharing things on my calendar, they get to see all the details because I want them to know where I am and what I'm working on. Additionally, with multiple calendars, you do have some options for how to view that. You can either overlay the calendars on top of each other, or you can have them show up side by side. It depends on really how many calendars you have. With only a couple calendars, and by that I mean if you've got anywhere from 3 to 5, side by side is okay, overlay is okay. If you start adding more than 5 calendars, it's not going to look that good. It's going to get real messy really fast. So you can also selectively show whether or not you want a calendar on your list or to pop up. So if you've got 20 calendars that you can show, you might only want to look at 3 at a time. And you can selectively enable them or disable them, which is also very nice. This all functions best with Exchange. Gmail does offer similar features, but those work best when you're using Gmail in the web browser. You can hook up Gmail to your Outlook and it'll work. It just doesn't work with the calendar or the contacts as well as if you do it through the web version. So what that looks like, I've got a calendar on the left, which is my personal calendar. And I've got what I set up was basically a room calendar. On the right is essentially a resource calendar. So you can see that this is the side-by-side method. You can see that they're both side-by-side, and you can use that to potentially schedule meetings, or it's just one representation on how to view both calendars at the same time. In contrast, this is the overlay method. So you can see that I can either show or not show both calendars, and you'll see on Wednesday that there's 2 different items. You'll see that the one, and I should have picked different colors, that they don't show up nearly as good as I had expected now that I look at it this way. But if I had better distinguishing colors, you could see that the one appointment at 12 is one color and the one appointment at 2 is a different color. And that represents which calendar they're associated with. So the overlay is great if you're trying to figure out when you have availability compared to, say, 3 other people. So if you've got 4 people on your team, you're trying to find a time when all 4 of you can meet, you just overlay everyone's calendar. And now that will help you see the gaps in the schedules to find a free time. There's also opportunities to request. There's a feature in there that I didn't put a separate slide on, but you can also use a request and try and get calendar requests for other people when you have a shared calendar. So if I'm trying to schedule a meeting and I want to request Thursday at 2 p.m., I can send a request based on the free busy nature that I've seen on the overlay, and then people can approve it or not. All right, so let's talk about rules and alerts. Rules are powerful email management options. Basically, whereas views only show or hide, rules actually do something. So you have great opportunity to significantly mess up your mailbox if you implement a rule wrongly. So this can be used to dump emails into certain folders. For example, if you've got a folder for FedEx, you could have a rule that says anything with the from being FedEx goes into this folder. And you can use it to bypass your inbox entirely. You can also use it to forward it to someone else. So maybe something that is a receipt, you want it to automatically forward to your accountant or CPA or bookkeeper. You can write a rule that says anything, from this particular person or this vendor gets automatically forwarded to this person. You can also use it to automatically delete emails. And this is where things can get pretty scary. So you can use a rule to automatically delete emails based on a certain criteria. We do see this in the context of compromised mailboxes. So essentially what will happen is the rules have the same filtering options as the view settings. So all those options that you saw on the advanced view setting, you can use to delete emails or move them or forward them or any of the other actions. You can apply rules based at that level. So that also gives you a significant amount of options as well as a significant amount of opportunities to really mess things up. So the rules, and what we'll see is if someone has a compromised mailbox, it's not uncommon for the hacker to write a rule that either deletes all their email or deletes certain emails, or basically they don't want them to see the replies to the scam emails that they're sending. So rules are a frequent way of controlling what the compromised person sees in their inbox after the compromise occurs. So one example is a person hacked into basically, we'll call it the CEO of a company, and they sent an email, the hacker sent an email to the CPA that they wanted this particular invoice paid. It was a fake invoice, it wasn't legitimate. But they also CC'd 2 other people within the organization for credibility. And there was a rule that was written that when these criteria matched, meaning an email that came back from the bookkeeper that included these other 3 people was to get deleted automatically. So that way, all the other emails went through perfectly fine, but the reply to the email for the invoice payment, or the fraudulent invoice payment, would not be seen by the person who had been compromised. It's pretty sophisticated and extremely effective. In this case, nothing went through, but had someone been less diligent in doing their due diligence, then that could have very easily gone through because no one knew what was occurring because of the rule. So you find rules and alerts by, if you're in your inbox, you click on the home tab, and then rules are on the far right. And then you have all these options. You can move an email with, from someone with specific words. You can make a special alert pop up. So maybe you get an alert from, an email from your boss. You want a different email notification alert to play versus the regular Outlook notification alert to play. You can have it play. You can have the alert apply on messages you send versus messages you receive. So there's any number of options. This is just the very basic rules wizard. You can bypass the wizard and go straight to the hardcore rules after that. Additionally, if you've got an email that you want to do something directly to, you can always right click on that email, and there's a section that says rules. And now you can create a rule or manage a rules and alert based on either the sender or based on who it was sent to. So you can see that in this case, I received an email from Malwarebytes, and it was sent to an email alias that I use just for that vendor. I could create a rule based on Malwarebytes sending me something, or I could create a rule based on the email address that they sent to, or I could just create a whole separate rule entirely based on some other criteria that I want.
Hey, Jonathan, I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question for him at any time in the session, post those in the Q&A, and we'll be sure that those are going to be addressed at the end.
Absolutely. Outlook plugins. Outlook allows the installation of third-party plugins to do even more things with Outlook. It's really great, actually, when they work. They don't always work. Common plugins are options like Google Meet and Zoom. You can also have other plugins like specialized spell checkers or advanced task assignment software. Asana is a task assignment software that you can use if the basic Windows or the basic Outlook tasks don't work well enough for you. Some can be installed on standalone Outlook. Others, like Zoom, require Exchange, or you have to use Outlook Web Access. For the purpose of this presentation, I did install the Zoom plugin on my Outlook Web Access, and so I've got a screenshot of that. The account that I've been using for generating these screenshots is not Exchange enabled, and so I was not able to put that into my Outlook client itself. It'll work fine. It's when it comes to something like Zoom, you're going to want your IT person to install that. It's not exactly end user friendly to get that working. So Google Meet is basically a competitor to Zoom. It lets you do a meeting right then and there. In this case, this is just what my add-ins look like. You can see that I've got a Google Drive Outlook add-in and a Google Meet Outlook add-in right below. There's a few others in there, but this shows you that I've got that installed on this computer, and it's for Outlook directly. What that looks like is if I create a new email under messages, I've got an option on the far right that says insert using Google Meet. And so when I click that, it automatically generates a meeting number. It automatically generates a phone and automatically generates a PIN. So I could create an email, send it to a couple of people, and now I've got a Google Meet that's directly created without having to go through anything special. Now, partly the reason why this works is because I've got my Gmail account hooked up to that. And so Google is able to generate those Meet icons or those Meet meetings because my Gmail account is connected in Outlook. Zoom. This is through the Outlook Web Access. I created a new calendar appointment, and now I've got a Zoom button in the top right corner. I did have to jump through some hoops to get that working. You do need a Zoom account, whether free or professional, like free or the paid version. I did have to do some backend install on my Office 365 tenant. Like it's not straightforward. If you're just an end user, if you're just a regular end user you're not very familiar with the computers, this is not like installing the Zoom plugin is not something that I would recommend you trying to do. You do need an IT person to be able to get that properly working and implemented. But what it does is the exact same thing. Just like I showed you in that Google Meet, you click it and it generates a Zoom and everything's right there. And it's just part of the calendar appointment. So it's extremely helpful and convenient for when you're settling or when you're creating remote meetings and you just click a button and everything's generated rather than having to go to Zoom and log in and generate a meeting and generate, it's all done right there for you right when you set up your calendar appointment. It's extremely helpful when it works, but it's not so straightforward to get working. So just real quick, there's many other there's so many other features that we could talk about, but I wanted to pick some of the common ones and some of the ones that we think would be helpful that don't necessarily get much use. There's just a lot of features that I don't see people using. Some of them save time while others make it easier to collaborate. You've got other features beyond what we covered. By default, for example, it doesn't show the from, it doesn't show blind carbon copy. You have to enable those. You can insert charts. You can pull information from other sources. There's just so many other things that we could cover when it comes to Outlook. Just remember that many of these features work best when used in conjunction with Exchange. There's plenty that you can do without having an Exchange account, but some of those things like Zoom, it's not going to work on a standalone version of Outlook. You have to have Exchange connected for that Zoom plugin to work. Other things like opening up additional mailboxes, it doesn't necessarily work that well without Exchange. I didn't have a slide for it, but if you've got a mailbox that you need to see multiple people to see, you can have that open right there in Outlook. For example, we've got a client where they've got 5 people opening up something related to accounting. And all 5 of them can see the mailbox and reply to it. And they can see if someone's read a message instead of having an email go through and then 5 people reply to the same email. That just doesn't look good. So that something like that is required to have Exchange set up and configured. So that went just a little bit faster than I had anticipated, but that is the core of what I wanted to cover today. There's, like I said, there's many other features that we could talk about, but I start throwing more of those in, it's going to turn into a 3-hour presentation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone have any questions for Jonathan? You can post those in the Q&A. I, for one, really appreciate it. You've got my head swimming. There's so many tips that I never knew about the quick parts and the view settings. That can be very handy if there's certain messages that you don't ever want to miss, and you can flag those. So that is important. And as you said, since you don't have 365, one of the things that I use too is the link, like you did Google, that you can do for even in Teams too. We use both Teams and Zoom at Virginia Community Capital, and that's pretty good. Well, it's actually very handy for scheduling meetings and so forth.
Yep. That has been a big improvement because older versions don't necessarily support that.
Teresa, yes. Question, will the recording be sent out? And Jonathan, you did a great job. Yes, it will be. Just give me an hour to get it all downloaded, and I will send a link for probably our YouTube channel, but it will also be available on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubators Facebook page and Virginia Community Capital's Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channels. Jonathan, what's some common mistakes people make when using Outlook?
The biggest, the things that cause the most damage are if you set up rules incorrectly, because that allows you to actually move emails. And if you're doing something like changing the view, that can be fixed. But as soon as you either move or delete an email, that becomes a whole lot more work to figure out what's happening. So we tend to tell people to be very careful when it comes to rules alerts, because that can do a real number on your inbox.
Oh, I bet it could.
But they're very helpful. When they work, they're great.
Uh-huh.
Like they
Now,
just, send stuff to the right location right away, but you just want to make sure that delete emails from this person and make sure that it's only that person and not, not everybody.
well, and I like that feature that you mentioned of, excuse me, if an email comes in that I can automatically have that forwarded if I'm out of the office for vacation, sick, or what have you, that can go to a team member, and
That's absolutely right.
someone thinks that you're not, you don't care, and about their business and their needs. So that's extremely helpful, that I feel like.
Or even if it's like a keyword that you want to make sure someone else sees, you could have a rule that says, if it contains receipt in the subject or something like that, forward it to this person. Because, for example, I order a large number of things online. Well, I don't handle the receipts. Someone else handles the receipts and make sure that they get processed properly. Well, I want to make sure that they get those receipts without having to sit there and explain forward every single one. So I'm able to have all my online receipts get forwarded to the person who enters them for me, and I don't have to sit there and think about it. Oh, did I remember to forward this receipt to this person?
Another thing is managing teams or tasks that you can assign, and you have a one-stop place that you can go and find out. If you manage 3 or 4 people, you can make sure everything is up to date, and that's a quick place that you can go to look at.
I didn't touch on tasks. That the Outlook tasks is not nearly as strong of a feature as some of the other platforms. Part of the reason is because if I create a task for somebody, they have to accept it. And so we have found that that's not all that great. So if I want someone to go to this site or fix this thing, I don't want them to have the option to say no. If I'm assigning a task to somebody as the manager or the business owner, they need to do that. They don't get the opportunity to decline, for the most part. And so Outlook tasks does not work that well in that regards. It's great if it's a collaboration among teams, but even then, there's other platforms that we would recommend for task assignment and making sure that you have things and people don't have the option to decline. So that's why I didn't include it as a slide. And I'm just not, for as long as they've been doing tasks, it's not that great of a platform for it, unfortunately.
We had John Bowling said the presentation was loaded with great information. Can you have him back again? Actually, he will be back on September the 29th doing a session on iPhone tips and tricks. For those of you that carry these things around everywhere, it's connected to your body, and there's probably features that you are not taking advantage of. He will be back for that. And again, this session, Jonathan was kind enough to share with me his slides. And when I send you the link for the YouTube channel that you can watch this again, I will also share with you the slides, because there may be something that you're tired of looking up on the screen and that you can have it up on your device.
Some of those slides have a lot of information, and it's easier if you're able to go back and look at it rather than have it up there for the 30 seconds that it was up there for.
But this is, Outlook is the most used in the industry. And again, you pointed out some features that I didn't even know about. So thank you for that. And if anyone still has questions, as you can see, Jonathan's contact information is on the screen. I'm sure he would welcome those questions. Just drop him an email or give him a call, and he'd be happy to help you. And of course, he is great at his business, and he knows his stuff. So if you ever have any IT needs, and he didn't pay me to say that, I'm just telling you. And we couldn't do this program without folks like Jonathan, who share their expertise and their training and so forth with our small business and organization. So, Jonathan, thank you for doing that, because that's money out of your pocket or time away from your business and customers. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks for letting us come on. We appreciate this.
I don't see any other questions. Again, thanks for sharing with us today. As I said, this session is being recorded and it will be available on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page, Virginia Community Capital's Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, New Knowledge. And I will point out on that YouTube channel, it's really hard to remember. It's youtube.com/new knowledge. We have probably getting close to 150 workshop videos that's on there. These are professional development workshops that you can have on-demand learning, whatever your needs are. And we have some great lineup of upcoming sessions in the months to come too. That I think you'll find very, very helpful. I just want to put in a plug for our next session, which will be held on September the 15th. This session will be focused on recruiting and retaining employees, and will be presented by Rex Carter with Universal Fibers in Bristol, Virginia. I hope you can join us. And if you have any questions, or if there's other training that you need, reach out to us and let us know. And Teresa, I got your chat. It's the address is youtube.com/noon knowledge, and they will be on that address when I send you the email follow up. Nita Farmer with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, one of our hosts on this. Nita, if you're still with us, would you have anything you'd like to say? I caught you off guard.
Caught me off guard, but that's okay. I've been listening intently. I just want to thank Jonathan. He always does a great job for us. Always looking forward to different things he's going to provide for us. So thank you again, Jonathan. And thank you to Sandy for everything that she does for us. I think we've got some great partners. We're always looking forward to coming to you and bringing new ideas and new technology and to help you along in your being an entrepreneur or for your small business. So thank you.
Thanks,
Great.
guys.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and stay dry.
And stay safe.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.